a town filled with narrow minds and hey, they used to laugh at me.
Hello, 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 and thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. I am Claudine Jackson. I am your host for A Spoonful of Comfort, which is to remind you and me that we can give comfort as well as get comfort. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in to WHPR TV. We're located here in the beautiful studios in Highland Park, Michigan, 160 Victor. And thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to add some things about Black History Month, since this is the near the end of Black History Month, and I have on my Black History getup. And as a retired school teacher, I could not, I would feel remiss if I didn't bring up our ancestors and pay tribute to our ancestors. And to the watching audience, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I want to say grace be to you. Grace be to you and peace from God the Father and our Lord Jesus Christ. And thank you so much for tuning in. It's an honor to have the privilege of your time, and hopefully you can take some time away from your troubles and the problems in life and settle down and watch the show. I am the founder of the Purvis Jackson Jr. Autism Foundation. So I want to thank the people who have donated to the Purvis Foundation. The Purvis Foundation helps lower income children with handicaps because Purvis Jackson Jr. is handicapped by autism. And so for 43 years, I've been the parent of a child with a disability. So I know what other parents of children go through. And Purvis Jackson Sr. was a member of the Spinner Singing Group and accomplished a lot of things in his life, of which Purvis Jackson Jr. knows none of it. He's not aware of anything that his father accomplished. He's 43, and he still can't read or write or talk or live independently, but he is content. And I remember when I was trying so hard to get him cured, and it didn't happen. So I say that God didn't cure him, but he cured me. Now, the Purvis Foundation helps lower income children with handicaps. And if you want to reach the Purvis Foundation, you can contact us at Post Office Box 04422, Detroit, Michigan 48204. You can also make a donation at Post Office Box 0422, Detroit, Michigan 48204. You can reach me, Claudine Jackson. I'm on Facebook, and also you can reach me at my email, which is jacksonclaudine@sbcglobal.net. Now, the Purvis Foundation is based on a few scriptures. It's based on Matthew 25:40, that which ye do for the least of my brethren, you do it also unto me. That which ye do for the least of my brethren, you do it also unto me. And handicapped children are some of the least of our brethren, especially lower income Black children with handicaps. We're also based on Galatians 6:9. Be ye not weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. And that's not just for me and for the Purvis Foundation. That's for all of you who are trying to do something good. Be ye not weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. And this is to all the helpers out there, all the ones who are trying to offer something positive to the world. Proverbs 3:27 is, withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thine hand to do it. Withhold not good from them to whom it is due, when it is in the power of thy hand to do it. I want to say goodbye, don't want to say goodbye, but I'm saying goodbye to one of the Purvis Foundation's biggest donors. Wesley Gulick passed away recently. His services will be tomorrow, the viewing from 4 to 8 at Swanson Funeral Home. Now, Wesley Gulick was born and raised in Michigan, but he lived in Los Angeles, California for many years. He had bit parts in different TV shows. He was a regular on the hit show 90210. He was the one that ran the Peach Pit restaurant where all the 90210 people hung out. Wesley was the one that gave the Big Ticket Classic every year. It was a golf event to raise money for the Purvis Foundation. Thanks to Wesley, the Purvis Foundation was able to accomplish much more than we would have without him. So we greatly miss him. Now, Wesley's funeral is going to be at Second Ebenezer Church on DeQuinder, and that's going to be Thursday. Family hour starting at 10, funeral starting at 11. So Wesley will be greatly missed, and we've lost too many people. There are so many people that have passed away that what we should do is, those of us who are still here, remind us that we are still alive and that there are things that we can accomplish while we are still alive, because that day is coming. They say that day is coming for all of us. But I want to share some Black history information with you. Let me tell you about a few movies. I just saw the movie Green Book. I talked about it on the show last week. Green Book is a movie about a musician who was traveling through the South, and they had to rely on a book called The Green Book, which was written by Victor Hugo Green. And it was a book that let Black people traveling down South know where they were welcome, because we weren't welcome everywhere. And there were restaurants and hotels and inns and rest stops where Black people were not welcome. So the Green Book helped us stay safe in the South. And the movie, it just won an award. First time I ever saw a movie before it won an award. And it was an excellent, excellent movie. So if you get a chance, you can see Green Book. A couple of other movies, Black history movies, there's a movie called Red Tails, which is about the Tuskegee Airmen. And the Tuskegee Airmen was a Black squadron who served during World War II. And there's a movie called Red Tails that tells the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. And part of our history, one of our mayors of Detroit, Coleman Young, who served as mayor of Detroit for 4 or 5 terms. I'm not sure whether he served 16 years or 20 years, but he was the longest serving mayor. And he was one of the Tuskegee Airmen. I'm very proud to be able to recognize people, our ancestors, that paved the way for us. There's also a movie, Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures is about these Black women that work for NASA. They did a lot of math work for NASA and helped the space age. So who knew that there were these Black women who were figuring out things that the astronauts wanted. In fact, one of the astronauts, before he would even take off, he had to check in with one of them to see how she felt about what their calculations were. So there are plenty more movies. So if you do get to see a movie during Black History Month, hopefully you'll get to see one of them or some other movie. There are so many movies about our history. And our ancestors had a hard way to go. Some of us still have a hard way to go. But if we don't remember what our ancestors accomplished, then we're doing them a disservice. I mentioned Coleman Young. Of course, I have to mention Barack Obama, the first black president. I'm saying the first because I don't know if there'll be others in our time, but he was the first. And Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, and he was a community organizer, and then he became a member of the Senate, and then he ran for president. And he was very intelligent, very dignified. I'm so proud that he was our president, and his motto was, "Yes, we can. Yes, we can," and he did. He had a book called The Audacity of Hope. I didn't read the book, but I'm going to get around to it. So Barack Obama was the 44th president of the United States. So he's a very important person in black history. I want to mention Jesse Jackson. Reverend Jesse Jackson worked with Martin Luther King. He marched with Martin Luther King. And he had the Push for Excellence organization. Now, Jesse Jackson, I saw him speaking many years ago, right here in Highland Park, in fact. He was speaking at Highland Park Community College at the time that I was attending Highland Park Community College. And he had a beautiful message for us. But one of the things about his message that I liked, he said that the way we treat people can make them feel like the behind or the backbone. And the behind, he didn't use that word, but I'm not going to use the word he used. You know, what you sit on. The way you treat people, you can make them feel like they're either the behind or they're the backbone. So I thought that was really important for us to remember. And it's something very easy for us to do. And it's something that I agree with, hence a spoonful of comfort. Susan Taylor. Susan Taylor was the editor of Essence magazine for many years. She wrote a column in the magazine every month called In the Spirit. She also wrote a book called Lessons in Living and a book called In the Spirit. Now, Susan Taylor talked a lot about karma, which is the law that what you put into the universe is what you get back from the universe. So if you're putting negativity into the universe, you're going to get it back from the universe. If you're putting positive things into the universe, that's what you get back. So the people who are putting negativity into the universe, think about karma. One day it's going to get you, and you can change at any moment. You can change your way of doing things. You can change your way of being at any moment. You have the mindset and the capacity to say, I'm not going to do things that way anymore. I'm going to change. I'm trying to change with my housekeeping. I've gone through phases. Some phases I was an excellent housekeeper. And then I wasn't an excellent housekeeper when I was raising kids and trying to cook and all that. So now that's the area that I need to improve. I need to get better with that. I know you're familiar with Rosa Parks. Everybody knows the story about Rosa Parks and her being on the bus and not giving up her seat, and that it was one of the starts of the civil rights movement and the Montgomery bus boycott. And she was working with Martin Luther King. But there was a younger lady named Claudette Cotton who did the same thing that Rosa Parks did. And Claudette did not give up her seat. So when they were deciding who to make the face of this movement, they decided on Rosa Parks instead of Claudette because Claudette was younger, she was a teenager, and she didn't have the reputation Rosa Parks had. Rosa Parks was already an activist. She had done a lot of community work already. So they are very important for us to remember. Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes was a poet and an author. And he wrote plays. Langston Hughes was one of the people that inspired me. Langston Hughes wrote a poem called A Dream Deferred. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Now, A Raisin in the Sun was the name of one of his plays. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? What happens to a dream deferred? Now, I have a poem that I wrote called I Had a Dream. And I know that Martin Luther King's famous speech was, I had a dream. But Martin Luther King would be the first person to say that he did not want dreams to die when he died. He would be the first person to say for us to continue to dream. So my I had a dream is, I had a dream. I had a dream, a wondrous dream. It warmed me in the cold. It shined its light all over me. Its promise was foretold. Now it picked me up when I was down, and it brought me through much more than I had thought that I could stand. It led me to a door that wouldn't open to my knock. I couldn't find the key. How to open up this door where all the promise be. How to find the magic lever that will set the jackpot free. How to pluck the golden apple from the golden apple tree. I'm getting closer, getting closer. I see the magic circles gleam. I can almost reach to touch it. Must I awaken from this dream? So there are two theories. Some people look at you and say, oh, you're just a dreamer, and they poo-poo you. But every good thing that happens started with a dream. So if you're somebody that dreams, you have to make the decision. Are you going to defer your dream? Are you going to give up on your dream? Or are you going to continue to work toward making your dream come true? I mentioned that our African history, our history started in Dakar, Senegal, at the door of no return. It was our last spot before we were put on ships to come to America. Now, it's now a museum. It's called the Museum of Slaves. We went from Dakar, Senegal to Gorée Island, and then we were loaded on ships and brought here. And I've mentioned before that if you get to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, they have a lot of our history there at the museum. But one of the most interesting things is the slave ship exhibit that shows how we were placed in the bottom of the ship, lying spoon fashion, packing in as many as they could, shackled together for the long trip across the ocean. A lot of people didn't make it. So those of us who are here, we came from the strongest and the healthiest because they were ones that survived that crossing. So we owe them a debt of thanks and a debt of honor because of what they went through. And when we came here, we were slaves. We had no choice, no say-so in the matter, and we were slaves until 1863 when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation and freed us. Frederick Douglass was one of our ancestors who he was a slave. He was not allowed to learn how to read and write, but his master's wife taught him how to read. And Frederick Douglass escaped, came north. He wrote some papers and books, and he was one of the people that helped influence Abraham Lincoln to write the Emancipation Proclamation, because Frederick Douglass was very intelligent, very dignified, and Abraham Lincoln met with him more than once. So it's important that we remember these people and remember what they accomplished, because even now it's hard for us to accomplish things. So I I'm telling you about our Black history so we can be proud of ourselves. We have accomplished a great deal since 1863. Look at, we have teachers and doctors and lawyers and astronauts, and were not allowed to learn how to read until 1863. So we need to be very proud of ourselves. Paul Laurence Dunbar. Paul Laurence Dunbar is the poet who was a slave and managed to get books published. I have no idea how he managed to do that. But Paul Laurence Dunbar was the person that sparked my interest in poetry. And I want to share his poem with you again, which is Jump Back. It's a Negro love song, and I'm going to say it in dialect because that's how he wrote, in dialect. Remember, he was not educated. And the name of this is A Negro Love Song by Paul Laurence Dunbar. Seen my lady home last night. Jump back, honey, jump back. Held her hand and squares it tight. Jump back, honey, jump back. Heard her sigh, a little sigh. Seen a light gleam from her eye and a smile go flitting by. Jump back, honey, jump back. Heard the wind blow through the pines. Jump back, honey, jump back. Mockingbird was singing fine. Jump back, honey, jump back. And my heart was beating so when I reached my lady's door that I didn't want to go. Jump back, honey, jump back. Put my arms around her waist. Jump back, honey, jump back. Raised her lips and took a taste. Jump back, honey, jump back. Love me, honey, love me true. Love me much as I love you. And she answered, course I do. Jump back, honey, jump back. Now, aren't those words just as alive today as they were when he wrote them over 200 years ago? I think it's important that we resurrect some of what our ancestors did because they paved the way for us. A few other Black history people that I want to mention, of course, I've mentioned Madam C.J. Walker, who was very important to me. My initials are C.J., but Madam C.J. Walker was the first Black millionairess because she made lotions and potions and pressing things for Black women's hair. And it was desperately needed back then. So I am so proud of her for all that she accomplished. Garrett Morgan, the Black man who invented the traffic light and the gas mask. In fact, when Garrett Morgan invented the gas mask, it was used to rescue 32 men who were in an explosion under Lake Erie. And if they hadn't used his gas mask, they would not have been able to rescue them. Alexander Miles, the Black man who invented the opening and closing of the elevator doors. Now, he did not invent the elevator, but he invented the mechanism that opens and closes the elevator doors. And also, he did something that kept elevators safe between floors. Lewis Latimer. Lewis Latimer invented the carbon filament for the light bulb. Now, we know that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but Lewis Latimer invented the carbon filament for the light bulb, which makes the light bulb last longer, because in the beginning, they did not last that long. So thanks to Lewis Latimer. Dr. Henry Sampson. Henry Sampson invented the gamma electric cell. And because of him and the gamma electric cell, we have cell phones. So isn't that amazing? All of these inventions and people that worked hard to make life better. Dr. Charles Drew. Dr. Charles Drew invented the blood bank. He discovered a way to store blood plasma that helped save many lives. And on the battlefield, with his invention, they could have blood on the battlefield for the people that need it. He also started the blood bank. So when I was in school, I knew of none of this. Of course, I was in school many years ago, back in the 40s, but we knew of none of this. The only black people that I heard of was George Washington Carver and Booker T. Washington. And of course, you know that George Washington Carver did a lot of things with the peanut. We have peanut butter because of him, peanut oil. He invented a lot of things with the peanut. And then Booker T. Washington that started a school. I think it was Tuskegee Institute. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. Carter Woodson was a historian who started Black History Month in 1926. In 1909 is when the NAACP started. And why were all these things started? All these things were started because black people were not included in history or in media, and we needed folks to include us. And I am proud of all of our ancestors, and we should have pride in our race. Everyone is not living up to their potential, but what about you? You can live up to your potential, or you can try. You never know what you can accomplish until you try. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman helped escaped slaves flee on the Underground Railroad. And Detroit was one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad, because from there we went to Canada. So Harriet Tubman was very important to our history. And they say that she carried a gun and that she did not allow people to turn back if they got scared and wanted to turn back. But of course, she had to not allow them to turn back, because it was not only dangerous for the person that turned back, it was dangerous for the people that had escaped. So I want to share another one of my poems with you called Will There Be a Happy Ending? Now, this is my poem of faith. Will there be a happy ending when all of this is through? Or will I wish I had given up and found something else to do? Will there be a happy ending? Will I laugh instead of cry? Will I turn lemons into lemonade? Can I make it if I try? There springs the hope eternal that things will turn out right. Please don't confuse me with the facts, because then I'll lose the fight. One day I'll say it's worth it all, the troubles I have seen. Or do I have the wrong opinion? Am I allowed to dream? Will I find the pot of gold? Does the rainbow follow rain? Or will I open up my eyes to see that optimism was in vain? Now, I know that happy ever after only comes in fairy tales, but I can't shake the feeling that all will turn out well. So you may think that I'm a fool, but I must stop pretending. I can't accept the doom and gloom. I'll have my happy ending. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Spoonful of Comfort. Hopefully you will tune in next Tuesday at 1:30 right here on WHPR TV 33. Have a good week.